We'd like to welcome the viewers to the Focus on Mission interviews. My name is Steve Semmer. I'm the coordinator of the MKP USA Mission Circle. And we've been doing monthly interviews with men who are the recipients of the Ron Herring Award over the years, and other men in the last year who've had things to say about mission. And our intention is simply to inspire men, just to tell stories and to broadcast what we're doing as a community in the area of mission. So it's my great pleasure today to welcome Paul Severance of Indiana, who was I believe the 2005 Ron Herring recipient from Indiana. And Paul is, I am not even sure, Paul, what your original award was given for. We can give you a chance to let us know that. But Paul is involved in a new passion, which has to do with gathering elders and forming what's called Elders Climate Action, which is focused on carbon emissions and global warming. And I'm going to offer Paul plenty of an opportunity to kind of tell us about the work that this organization is doing. Paul, I believe you're one of the founding members, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Paul, we always begin just with an opportunity for man to just speak his mission. What's your mission?
Well, my mission is to make a difference for the grandchildren.
Okay. And
I know that's not exactly the usual form, but that kind of evolved into that.
One of the other things we're kind of interested in, just on behalf of some of the men listening to this, is the question of whether your mission has evolved from your training dramatically or in minor ways. Take a few minutes and just tell us about the evolution of your own mission.
All right. Well, there's a number of different threads, and certainly MKP has been a big part of that in not so much in the specific mission, but in the commitment to mission is something that is built into MKP, and that certainly spoke to me. So it has evolved for me. When I first went through the weekend, that was 6 or 7 years before I retired, and then I spent a period of a few years after I retired. I retired 10 years ago, and so after I retired, I really I'd have to say I floundered around a bit, trying to figure out what the next phase of my life was going to be about. And so I went through, several ideas about that and tried some things, and but my attention kept, and I think my grandchildren played a big role in that. My attention just swung over a period of 2 or 3 years more and more to this whole matter of climate change, which I see as a huge threat to the well-being. I will say I had my first great-grandchild was born this year. And so, gosh, I just, I think about the world that little guy is going to have to contend with, and it scares me and it inspires me to, to do whatever I can do.
Yeah. Paul, why don't you tell us what this current project is, this Elders Climate Action. Take a few minutes and just describe the work you folks are doing.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this grew out of a meeting in California like a year and a half ago called by a fellow who had retired and who had the idea. His driving passion is just that elders can and need to be making a difference in the world. And so he called together a group of 50 of us from around the country. I have no idea how he decided who to invite or how I got invited, but we spent 3 days in a room in San Francisco talking about that idea. And at one point I made an impassioned talk about climate change. And of course that landed me as the chair of the committee to
that'll teach you.
Right. Yeah. Get the usual punishment for opening one's mouth. So, we started out with 3 or 4 of us, and just with the idea that that elders. Well, I think there was two central ideas behind it. One is that it's kind of natural in the human condition that elders turn their attention, our attention, to legacy and to what we are creating for future generations, whether it be in our family or in the world. And so that's kind of a natural role for elders. And the studies that I've had in anthropology tell me that that's always been the role of elders. It's been suppressed in modern society, but it is a natural thing, I believe, for elders to have that, develop that longer view and care about the future.
So Paul, you're my idea of an elder is somebody who's out, quit his job and is out playing golf, playing Monopoly with his grandson, driving an RV to Arizona to park someplace near one of the monuments and live for the summer. So this is a totally different idea, contrasted with our usual cultural understanding of what the elder years are supposed to be. This is a really engaged kind of model you're talking about, where people are very involved in political events, in talking to politicians and making a difference and so on. So this sounds really exciting. So this is the direction this group went in, and you and a couple of others were sort of the focus of the climate change piece of that. So just tell us some of the work you've done so far with the climate change issue.
The other thing I will tell you is that I think that although the culture tends to lead us in the direction that you're talking about,
okay.
So it tells us that we're over the hill and, just go play golf and keep our mouths shut. But at this point in time, elders not only have that natural inclination, I believe, but are in an incredible place for making a difference. Just because of the demographics, there are a lot of us, and we're growing and growing and growing, and we vote, in higher percentages than any other segment of the population. So the potential power of the elders is huge. And so here we are facing this situation, which is an incredible threat. I think, and I'm not a scientist, but I read an awful lot about this, and I think that this is the greatest threat that humanity has ever faced. And in a way, that means that we have an opportunity that no other generation of elders has ever had. That we can and we must make a difference on behalf of those future generations. And the insanity of the political gridlock we have around this issue is just astounding.
All right, so I have a couple of questions about this. One is just a remark, and that is, I was calling up in anticipation of talking with you today some graphs about carbon emissions and energy usage. And this is not a surprise to you. I know you know all about this, but I was looking at, in our lifetime, I'm 68 myself, I'm not sure what your age is, but just since the mid-40s, carbon emissions have grown eightfold. Maybe more than eightfold in terms of, and so this is, it's not only do we have political clout and maybe some time to devote to this and maybe some commitment to our grandchildren, but in large part, this is our mess. Our generation created a lot of this. And those of us who did not stand in front of the bulldozers and protest this are guilty by the fact that we've been relatively passive about it. But there are other reasons, in my opinion, for elders to be involved in this issue. You know, I myself was involved in a lot of political protesting, and I don't know if you were when you were a younger man. Were you involved in all the anti-war, civil rights kind of stuff, you know, ages ago, or is this your first rodeo with this kind of stuff?
No, I was involved in the civil rights to an extent.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the difference for you approaching this as an elder this time versus what you were doing at the other end of your life, approaching this as a young person. I'm curious about how this feels different for you to be approaching an issue like this as an elder.
Well, I'll tell you, my primary response to that is, wow, what a learning curve. Because, you know, I was so inspired by what I saw going on in the civil rights movement that I was basically around the edges of it, but so inspired about that I decided to leave my job as a banker and become a community organizer. And so I spent, you know, almost 40 years of my life as a community organizer. And then I retired 10 years ago from that. And here I am, you know, back in somewhat the same kind of an arena. But it's, you know, what is needed. Well, I mean, for one thing, I was organizing urban neighborhoods or statewide organizations, but not national things. So that's way out of my experience. And I used to organize by knocking on doors and so forth. And, you know, so now I have to learn about Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of stuff that I don't know anything about. So it's really challenging in that respect. And it's different. And I don't know that this is because I'm an elder. It's different in that in my organizing career, I was tackling, you know, relatively discrete issues that were at least potentially winnable. And we won most of them. And you know, we got legislation passed in the state legislature addressing some issue that we were deeply concerned about and whatever. And here we're talking about a problem of such immensely greater scope, and there's no quick and easy solution available. And so it's a different ball game. It's something that I feel I have to be in. I have to contribute whatever I can as long as I'm 76. You were asking about age. So I don't know how many years I've got to pour my energy into this, but I just feel that I don't know what the outcome will be of that. But it's like, you know, I somewhere I got a vision of my great-great-great-great-grandchildren, if there's still an internet left, you know, looking to see what their ancestor did. And I just would like them to conclude that I did my best.
Joanna Macy, who has lectured and written on the Great Turning for many years, has talked also for many years about an occupational hazard for those who try to change the world in these big ways, which is despair, where the job is so huge that it's almost impossible to avoid feeling that the mountain will never be climbed. And so she spent a lot of her work talking about how to work with one's own despair. Just curious whether you've been involved in this for about a year, and I'm just kind of wondering whether that kind of thing has come up as the magnitude of this starts to settle on your shoulders.
Well, not really, because I think part of for me of being an elder is that I'm less attached to the outcome.
Okay.
And that's in a kind of strange way. I mean, I'm deeply attached to, doing whatever I can so that great grandchild lives in a world that's sane and livable and so forth. But I know that I'm not going to bring that about. I'm not a savior, whatever. And so I'm less attached to the outcome of what I do than I always was earlier in my life. And now it's more about just feeling good about doing my best. And I do think that's a part of the elder space, at least it is for me.
Thank you. That really kind of rings true as you talk about that. I can really feel that. I'm curious about in the process of doing this kind of work so far. Men have talked in this circle, in our interviews with the Mission Circle, of obstacles that they've had to face in the process of doing this, an obstacle they're maybe still working, they're up against. And these obstacles can be external obstacles, like, I'm guessing maybe political forces out there, money and this kind of thing. But they can also be internal obstacles, dealing with overwhelm, or dealing with, like you were saying, about the difficulty kind of getting your brain to work with the new technologies and so on. So I just invite you to kind of talk about what you've found yourself up against so far in doing this mission work.
Well, yeah, kind of all of those things that you mentioned. I mean, certainly the whole technology and how you go about organizing these days is so different that there's a steep learning curve, and I feel a great deal of frustration in this gridlock that we have in this country, particularly over this, which is so it literally seems to me like a kind of insanity, because whether we are really facing a threat at the level that it seems to me we're facing, it has nothing to do with political ideology. It's science is the only guide we have, and so to have this impassioned gridlock and the two sides trashing each other is just, it seems to me, a form of insanity. And I mean, it makes sense that people, based on their political ideology, may have a different idea about solutions, but not about whether there's a threat or not. So
there's a bullet heading towards my head. It doesn't really matter whether it's a Republican bullet or a Democratic bullet or a Tea Party bullet. I better duck or do something to protect my head.
Exactly, rather than having a debate about whether it's real or not. Yeah.
Okay. So that's been one of the big obstacles, is just that kind of irrationality of the ideological debate around the issue and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons elders have a chance of making such a big difference on this issue is that I think we can talk to other elders in a way that's different from what the the tree hugging environmentalists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of elders will dismiss those folks.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about polar bears, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. But I think that we can talk to other elders about our common concern about our grandchildren in a non-ideological way, and start to build this movement of elders that really can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hope that balances the despair.
Yeah. One of the discussions that's happened in some of these circles that we've had is around other ways for men to get in touch with mission. And, you know, all of us who are warriors went through a certain process in our training, which helped us come up with a little piece of our mission. But Joanna Macy, I was reading some of her work on this, and she suggests a couple of imaginary conversations to help a person kind of bring this into a focus. One is a conversation with the ancestors, where somebody says, you know, what's the work for me to do, you know, to the ancestors, and kind of sense what they're putting in front of me. And a second is the conversation with future generations. And it sounds like it's the second that's really had a big impact on you, is just kind of asking yourself the question, what work are future generations needing me to do in the years that I have that I'm still active. So
yeah, exactly.
Let me just do a screen share of the website that is the website. I don't know if there's anything about this you wanted to say. This is just some of the things on the front, but I know that you weren't actively involved in this, but this has been kind of your portal that draws people in. It looks like it has a lot of position papers and videos and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd like to say about the website, or the issue about how others can be involved in this kind of work, elders or not? What might you say about that?
Well, of course, what we're doing is trying to speak to other elders and bring people in that way. We're very much interested and involved in working in coalition with other groups, other age groups, and so forth. But our particular niche is to bring elders in. That one with the sign, the banner and all the signs is a bunch of us went and participated in the climate march in New York, which was, gosh, a year and a half ago. We weren't even really started at that point, but we were united with our passion, and it took us to New York. So. And we work with organizations like Moms Clean Air Force. So we're working with, you know, younger women, moms who are doing this work because of their concern for their children, and different environmental groups and so forth. So I may have lost track of your question.
Well, no, that's great. You're talking about the coalitions that have been put together. One small thing which caught my eye in this website is a little section that says 1 hour for the climate. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was, because this is such a huge issue, that for many of us, at least I'm speaking for myself, the issue is so big that it can easily stop me in my tracks. Sure. But they had a page here that had ways that a person could spend a single hour to do something to move this issue forward. Mm-hmm. For example, email friends and family asking them to join Elders Climate Action, invite friends and family to go to ECA's Facebook page and like and share it, recruit new members for ECA by taking our pledge membership form to a group or event or faith community and so on, invite an organization, club, faith community, or other group to sign up as a partner, and so on. So I thought these were great small things that people, if they were kind of stuck like I am with the magnitude of this, if they were asking themselves, what kinds of things can I do? This provides a very useful little set of suggestions.
Oh, thanks.
So, Paul, I'm going to take us off the website and also kind of open this up. We have a couple of people that have joined us, and this is our opportunity for anyone from the rest of us, aside from me. I'm just going to shut up for a bit here and let others ask what they'd like to ask. So the meeting is open at this point. If you have questions for Paul or remarks of any kind, now's your opportunity.
Yeah, Stu Kennedy here. I would like to ask Paul what specific projects or directions are you planning in the future, in the near future? What actions do you have in mind?
Great. Yes, I'm very glad you asked that. Yeah, we've got a project which we're just kicking off, which is aimed at injecting climate change into the congressional races around the country. We're concerned about the extent to which climate change isn't even mentioned in far too many of these things. So we're pulling together local teams, whether it be in a city or a congressional district or whatever it makes sense to the volunteers involved. And we have a candidates questionnaire that we're asking people to take to all the candidates, and we will publish the results of that on our website. But we hope that we can raise up the visibility of the issue by going to town meetings and candidates forums, and just even if we do nothing else other than say, hey, we're grandparents and we're deeply concerned about this. So kind of make the issue visible that way, and try to push the candidates to respond in some way to this questionnaire. So if they don't send back the questionnaire, people will go to their district offices and say, hey, why didn't we get this from you, and so forth. So that's a project that will be going on, starting in earnest. We're just doing the organizing, getting the local teams set, but this will be going in earnest through the campaign season. And then our next project after that will be to organize the first project that we did when we were first formed just a little over a year ago, was to hold what we called Grandparents Climate Action Day in Washington. And so we had 124 of us, I think, from around the country, or whatever the number was. No, it was 150 about. We divided up into teams and visited 124 congressional offices in teams of 3 or 4. And we were very blessed to have James Hansen, who's one of the foremost climate scientists in the world, come and speak to us and help get us well grounded in what we were going to be talking to the congressional offices about, and so forth. And that was a really energizing experience for everybody who was involved in it. And so at first we thought, well, this is going to be an annual thing, But then we looked at, well, we did it in September of 2015. Should we do it in September of 2016 in the absolute heat of the campaign? And everybody said, no, you don't do it then. Nobody will pay any attention to you whatsoever. So that'll be our next project, is organizing our second Grandparents Climate Action Day for the spring of 2017. So we hope to have a lot more people and visit a lot more congressional offices and keep kind of building the momentum and the influence.
So, Paul, I said I was going to shut up, but I'm so this Grandparents Action Day, just for clarification, is this in one location, or is this around the country? This happens at a lot of different centers at the same time.
Well, I suspect and hope that it will expand. We were focusing on doing this in Washington.
Okay.
So, and I think we'll do that again. Mm-hmm. But we did in our first one last September. We did do a broadcast, a video broadcast from our meeting place in Washington that people in small groups around the country listened into, and so forth. So we did try to engage folks out around the country that couldn't be in Washington in some small way. I'd like to have us have, at the same time we're doing the visits in Washington, having folks at the local level, visiting their district offices and so forth. So hopefully we can build that in next time.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Peter Sullivan.
Peter, hello.
I really enjoyed the conversation with you earlier. And then I was on the line on the phone before, and now the computer was available, so now I have a chance to be online and my handsome face at the same time.
There you go. All right.
Okay, I live in New Jersey, and I'm pretty active in the elder group here, and I'd like to see what I can do to talk to more men in the Mankind Project here in New York, New Jersey area, and get them interested in this, because I see what you were saying before about as an elder, this is our mission, shall we say. This is a natural legacy. We want to leave the world more whole than what we found it. So I'm enthused about your leadership in this, and want to see if I can help to mobilize some people here in the New York, New Jersey metro area for it.
Great.
Uh-huh.
That would be a great help.
Yeah, and then putting solar panels on roofs is another thing that I think is a way to help with climate change, to get as much alternative energy generated as possible. That's something I'm already working on, and I have other people working with me on that.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll probably be asking you to write something up on that we can put on our website as an example of what elders are doing on this around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have about maybe 10 minutes left, and one thing I'd like to try, this is a small group, but it's something we've done in some of our mission circles, and that's what we call a seed pod stretch. So here's what a seed pod stretch is. It is an invitation for every man present in a circle to step into leadership and set a stretch with a specific intention. Okay, so for instance, we could invite men to set a stretch about making the world more beautiful, and every man is going to have their own read about what that action would be to make the world more beautiful. It could be mowing his lawn, or it could be putting up a nice painting in his living room. So I want to make it clear that this is not a have to, it's an invitation, but because the issue of the day is the issue of carbon emissions and global warming, and Paul's stated project of elder climate action. The invitation would be for every man here in this circle to set some specific stretch, and we all know how this is done because we've all sat in circle, which would be our attempt to further this work. And again, we'll a specific action with a particular deadline, something fairly limited. And I want to add to this that I know many of us are very busy, so small is beautiful. It can be a very minor thing. It could be just having a conversation with my dog about global warming. But let me model this just so my stretch in service to this issue is that I am going to broadcast the link to this interview to every MKP elder community, and I'm going to make sure that happens within 1 week, and I'm in.
Oh,
That's a big stretch.
okay. I've got a good specific one also. Stephen may know about this. The New England area elders are getting together later this month. I'm signed up for it already. It's a great group of elder men, and my stretch will be to bring whatever material I can gather from Paul or from his website and talk about it at that elder gathering and pass the word on to those men. I'm sure some of them will be interested.
Uh-huh.
I'm in. And Paul, if you have anything that you can send me that I can print and put out on the table, there's always a place at the elder gatherings for material like that.
Oh yes, I would love to do that, and I just need a way to get your email address, and so.
You're a warrior. If you go to MKP Connect, put my name in, at New England area, you'll get my email address and my phone number.
Okay, great. Good. I'll do that, and I will be in touch.
Okay, great.
And I will, Paul, if you're comfortable with MKP Connect, the reason I ask, because you did say that technology was a bit of a mystery. Have you used that site? Are you familiar with it?
I haven't used it for a while, but
okay.
I think I can do that.
All right. So if you have any difficulty with it, if you have any difficulty negotiating, just contact me and I can.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, Peter Sullivan here. All right, I like what Stu said about passing the information that we get from this recording on to our elder group. So we have some elder meetings here in the metro area. So I will try to put this on the agenda, and see the men I know that might have an interest in this already, to reach them especially with mission statement of environmental activists.
Yeah.
And then it would be nice to have MKP as an organization kind of stand up for this global, addressing global warming, but I don't know if that's realistic, because in some places they say this is a political issue, and I don't think it is.
Yeah. I don't believe MKP is affected by global warming. They won't be interested in this, Peter. I think they're immune to those kind of planetary forces. So I think that would be great. And I will have a conversation with Boysen. I know that there are a few select issues, mission issues, that MKP is getting behind. And one is domestic violence, and there's a couple of different places where that's happening. But I think this would be a wonderful one for us to get behind And I'll talk to Boysen about whether something can be done in that area.
Right. We have a lot of.
The seed pod stretch thing. My intention is to do this for every one of these meetings we have at the end, just to help all of us kind of set our own goals of involvement. And action is the best. I mean, giving some money is terrific. That can be an action too. But just imagine a group of 100 men, each one setting some small stretch in helping the issue of global warming. Now, then it would not be the feeling of just 3 men carrying this massive burden and you have 1,600 men who are signed on to the website, but then you'd be having action coming from a lot of different quarters, and it could be very small action.
Yep.
That kind of thing, if you think of, that metaphor of the butterfly effect, that thing from the chaos theory from the 1960s, where a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can start wind currents going that could make a hurricane. If you have a lot of people starting in action, even small action, currents can begin. A lot of these issues sort of happen with small currents like this. People going to a church in the South and getting interested in a civil rights issue and so on. So I encourage people to, we have a website that does talk about the specifics of setting up the seed pod stretches, but I think they're important instruments for our community for us to work together as groups so that the work doesn't fall just to those people who are stupid enough to raise their hand or step into the center of a circle at one of the hot seats and so on. Anyway, so enough about that, but our time is up, and Paul, I really appreciate your contribution today. It's very exciting work for me, and I think I speak for all of us that about how important this work is. I want to, because this is such a huge issue and so difficult to kind of grasp, just make a small quotation. This is from Robert F. Kennedy. First is the danger of futility. The belief there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery and ignorance, injustice and violence, and global warming, I guess we could add. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth. And a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. It was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and a 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson who proclaimed that all men are created equal. Give me a place to stand, said Archimedes, and I will move the world. These men and women move the world, and so can we all. So small action by single individuals can have profound effects, and that's really what we're talking about, and the purpose really of mission, that we're all radio towers broadcasting this energy into the world. It's not just our work, but something we kind of add to the currents out there. So I hope you accept our blessings and our best wishes in the work you're doing, Paul.
I appreciate your support and taking the time and effort to do this very, very much. Yes. Blessings to you all.
Uh-huh.
Okay.